All right, friends, we're going to get started. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everybody, welcome. Mitzi's here to open us up. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I want to take roll.
Present.
Present. Here.
Absent. Deskin.
Here.
Birdbauer.
Here.
Bartleson. Here. Saban. Present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right, would you join me in prayer, please? Gracious God, we thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for daily sustenance and for community. Thank you for the ability to be involved in the important work of governing this city and for the honor of bearing that responsibility. We pray for our mayor, the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. We're asking that you graciously grant them wisdom to govern, a true sense of the welfare and needs of our people, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. I pray for the agenda set before them this evening. Please give them an assurance of what is right and good in your eyes and effectiveness in their decision-making. Amen.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, friends, we got any liaison reports tonight? Nobody?
I do. I'm excited about this. So yesterday we had a meeting for Bloom Lockport at the library. It went fantastic. We had a pretty good attendance considering that it was really, really cold out, and honestly, I didn't think anybody would show up. But it was fun. It was, Karen Tim went ahead and did the lecture, and it was basically taking us to the very beginning of what a native is, what are the hybrids of natives, just the basics about gardening. The next one is going to be April 22nd, Earth Day, and that's going to be a really cool meeting because we're having Beth Pluce from the Conservation Foundation. She's coming in and she's going to kick us off with a program that is really neat. Let's say you want to plant native, but you don't exactly know what should go where. They'll actually they'll come to your house and map it out and say, okay, this may have too much moisture, you need these type of plants, or if you want to put something in a certain area, they'll say, okay, these will go better here. Then you're going to go ahead from there is they will give you like if you do everything they say and everything grows right, you get a little certificate at the end of the year, and all of this is free. That's the really cool part, is you get your own landscaping design. I'm sure there's limitations on it, but they help you out with it, which is really nice. And then also we're having a plant sale, and that's in coordination with the high school. The ag students are putting together kits of native plants, and I don't know yet if we've determined whether they're just going to be an all-purpose native plant where it can pretty much go everywhere, or it will be, some for shade, some for sun. Not quite clear on that, but they're getting the plants together. They'll be able to sell them at the meeting. So if anybody wants to go, it's April 22nd, 7 p.m. At the library. Thank you.
Right on, thank you. It's cool. Thanks, Christina.
I've got one finance report. Lisa informs me that the preliminary audit fieldwork is now complete, and final fieldwork on the budget will start at the end of March. We have a couple of new hires. We have a Lynn Schmansky. She's special events manager. She's taken the place of Allison, who was our former special events person who left. And I met her yesterday at the State of the City address, and she's really excited for the position. She's just got a bubbly personality, which would be great for events. Tom, our lawyer on loan, Tom is joining us. Sony, our prior attorney, has been appointed to a judgeship, I guess you could call it. So she's gone off to do that. Tom used to work here. He was around here. I wasn't here when you were here, but he's offered to throw his hat back in the ring and assist us with city matters until we can find a replacement. So I suspect he'll help us in that quest as well. He was a lawyer, he's a judge, and also a city manager. So we're happy to have you on our team, and welcome. One last one. We have a person for the Public Works area, I believe. He was an intern, did seasonal work, cutting grass in the summer. He's now found some free time. I guess he graduated. His name is Colin Lindsay, and he will take the place of Tom Hilm, who retired just recently. So welcome aboard to those new staff members. Thank you.
All right, anybody else got anything?
I have something. Just want to thank the City of Lockport, Chamber of Lockport, and the Heritage Corridor for calibrating 2 weeks of Restaurant Week, February 24th through March 9th. Mention that it's Restaurant Week, and the participating restaurants will have special offers and special pricings. Public Landing, Mama Onesta's, Lock and Mule, George's, Embers, Taco Patio, Vegan Cafe, Nick and Ivy's, Coombs, Tallgrass, Kremlin Coffee, Nikki's Euros, Dairy Queen, Manja Pizza. There will be valet parking, complimentary, Friday 5 to 11, Saturday 4 to 11. So it's 2 weeks. Mention the Restaurant Week, February 24th through March 9th.
All right. Thank you much. All right, is that everything? Anybody else? Okay. All right, well, welcome, everybody. I know you guys are here because of an invite, because normally nobody ever shows up to our council meetings, which is not a good thing. I wish they would. But I'm thankful that you're here. I will say this, if you guys are here to talk about water, fill out a card in the back, and you can bring it over here to, you can give it to Rich so you're not in the way, but that way we can, if you want to talk. So please fill out that card if you wanted to speak tonight. In the meantime, we're going to move forward with our city council meeting, which should just take a few minutes, and then we'll get into committee of the whole. And then at the end, I just want to leave room where we can just talk and not be pressured for anything else. So let's get our regular agenda items out of the way. All right, so for city council meeting tonight, I'm looking to have a consent agenda. So I have a
moved.
motion.
Second.
Nope, man, okay, I got, I thought Susan was trying hard.
Yeah, she got it this week.
She got in there first.
Yeah.
Susan
Last
and
week
Pat.
was that side of the table.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so for consent, we're looking for approval for committee of the whole meeting minutes from February 5th, our regular city council meeting minutes from February 5th, our bills through February 8th, payroll period ending February 2nd, and facade and site improvement grant for 1,000 South Hamilton in the amount of $43,790. So looking for approval on this.
So move.
All right, we got Joanne and Renee, and can we do a roll call, please?
You got it. King.
Yes.
Hugh.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Jalopy is absent. Duskett.
Yes.
Birdbauer.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
Saban.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so that's it. Anybody have anything else they want to add to the council before we close this one? All right, so looking for a motion to adjourn
So
city
moved.
council. All right, Pat. Second by Renee. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So,
That's quick.
it was. 2 minutes? Mm-hmm, yeah, sure, it's late.
Right.
And then whenever you're ready, Kathy, just let us know.
Okay, ready to go.
Mm-hmm, yeah, lay it on us.
Roll call for committee of the whole. King.
Present.
Hugh.
Present.
McDonald.
Here.
Jalopy is absent. Duskett.
Here.
Birdbauer.
Here.
Bartleson.
Here.
Saban.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right, Lisa, you got budget amendment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This budget amendment is for the budget the year that just ended, 2024. Wanted to wait until the year wrapped up and we had all the expenses in to make sure there wasn't anything else we needed. Really comes down to two things that need to be, and even though there's a number of accounts that get amended, it really pertains to us moving the development engineering from the engineering department over to the CED department. So revenues on both of those departments had to be increased and decreased, and then the same thing down on the expense side where we moved employees over and consulting expenses. So we just need to get those kind of buttoned up in the areas where the actual expenses and revenues occurred. And then the second item is for the TIF fund. We received more TIF revenue than we were budgeting for, and because our TIF fund is set up to give 28% back to the taxing bodies, we had to increase the amount of expenses in the TIF to be able to accommodate that requirement. So I increased both the revenue and the expense in the TIF fund. So you'll see there's a number of items. These are just cleanup. We've talked about them throughout the year, so should be no surprises there for anybody, but I'll entertain any questions if there are any.
You need this on an agenda item then, a consent?
Consent is fine.
Okay. Any questions? All right, good with consent then?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, and then CD1.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is related to a contract with Arcadis. They are the same firm that we had worked with for our workshop on the Star Innovation District. This is related to Resolution 25020. This is to engage them in the next step in our development process for the Star Innovation District. There are 3 tasks associated with the project. The first task is vetting a series of different developers using their data center team that they already have on board and in-house. They will review and shortlist a series of probably about 9 or 10 different data center developers that they will shortlist then for us. They're going to be developing the RFQ. There was more information in the proposal that was in your packet. And then they will prepare the RFP. So RFQ is request for qualifications. RFP is request for proposals. And hopefully by the end of that, we will have a partner in developing the at least the first phase of the Star Innovation District related to the direction that came out of your approval of the workshop plan, I believe at the last meeting or the meeting before, I forget which. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any. And
I just have one. So are they going to work in concert at all with our Washington lobbyist?
That's not a specific part of their contract. Developing the RFQ and the RFP specifically for a developer doesn't really relate to any grants or any funding that would come from the federal government. We will certainly be working with the state government as we advance this, and I'm sure that most of the data center developers out there that are active in the market are fully aware of all of the incentives and grants that both DECO as well as the state in general offer for the work that they're doing, as well as the federal government. But most of the development groups that we have at least had initial conversations with are multi-billion-dollar companies that have a very deep portfolio of data centers that, if you're specifically referring to the recent announcement that the president made related to, I think it was $80 billion of investment in data centers, I'm sure that they are all either a part of that or very closely tied to it.
So is our, have we informed our lobbyists to be ready?
Yeah, we'd actually been reached out to Jason Ty that first week.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, he reached out to him and said, Jason, this is, we saw this in the news. Can you make sure you're keeping us apprised and making sure you're proactive on it? So.
Did you tell the people what we're talking about?
Yeah. So we have was Darren saying that, there's a lot of federal money and possibility for data centers that are very needed. Our old Chevron property that the city acquired a few years ago, we've done master plans and had community charrettes about what could go in, what shouldn't go in, and data centers are very passive. It might need some water, which I'm concerned about. Rich, I saw or Randy, I saw that, but we'll keep an eye on that. But if they're a possibility, they bring in, there is good revenue for them just because of the property tax. But having a lobbyist in Washington that we enlist from time to time to make sure that the pressing for that, if there's any available money, making sure we're putting all our feelers out there, so yeah. Okay. Are you guys good with consent on CD1 then?
I got one
Any other
question.
questions? Yeah, please.
The request for qualifications, that's them being qualified to build a data center?
No, that is them taking the list that they shortlist and preparing a full request for qualifications packet. That request for qualifications will go out to that list. They will respond to all the requirements that are in that RFQ, things like how well capitalized are they, what's their experience in building data centers,
Okay.
what's their global reach, what are recent projects that they've done and how big, what are different financing mechanisms that they are familiar with. Have they ever done public-private partnerships? Have they ever done lease arrangements, or do they prefer whole purchase of property? All of those are questions for us that will likely come down the road, particularly once we get to the RFP portion.
Mm-hmm.
But the RFQ is really, it is all of the offerers giving us all their qualifications so that we can evaluate it, and Arcadis will put together all the scoring systems. They will do the first blush. They will handle all the requests for informations, RFIs, and respond to all of those. They'll obviously be working directly with me then with the mayor and Ben and any of you that are interested to respond to those questions, and they will package all that back to them. One of the reasons why we wanted to head this direction is to make sure that the city got the best offer ultimately once we get down to the RFP.
Mhm.
Once we get to the RFP, we'll have a much better sense for exact size, scale of what they would propose, financing mechanism for what they would propose, EAV for what would be thrown off by these structures, what the willingness that they are to do off-site improvements.
Mhm.
So any sewer or water line improvements that we would need, what they are willing to offer into that. The RFP document, and the reason why it's such a large portion of the scope of this, will probably end up being at least 1.5 inches or an inch of paper, just requiring just a ad nauseum amount of information that they will send back to us. It'll likely take 60 days for those folks to come up with all the information that we're going to ultimately request, but at a staff level, we just don't have both the skill as well as
Sure.
the time to be able to assemble all of that.
Lance, how flexible you think? I remember the one company that we just were chatting with the other day. I mean, they do things other than data centers, and so how flexible do you think what Arcadis puts together could be translated? Like, if data centers is not practical, if it doesn't work, if that's not for whatever reason, on our end, their end, whatever, would any of this work be flexible with the companies that they're proposing to, like the one we spoke with, that they do things other than data centers, and could it be translated for that?
I would say that the RFQs for anybody that would be out there, we would obviously have to change a bunch of the language to not direct it specifically towards data centers. And the RFP, of course, would be significantly different if we wanted to take a different tact. Specific to your question, we hope to have a better understanding of some of those conditions from Arcadis and their data center team related to whether or not there is a issue with the oil tanks that are to the north, and whether or not there is a blast radius concern for those, or a chemical spill from the rail line, if that would ever occur, whether or not that is a true constraint on the property, or if most of their research and most of their work in data center work isn't really that big of a deal. Ultimately, we can approve the contract. We don't ultimately have to engage it. So if we find out that, all of these things really limit our ability to do a data center, we can put a halt to the project and not expend any funds after that point. So that's all part of the process.
So, yeah, I'll bring up to speed on that, too. So, we had a conversation with one of these developers just because they wanted to talk. So I was like, fine, we'll have a conversation. But they had concerns about, like, proximity to rail lines, proximity to tanks, and, of course, I've always had the concern about how much cooling water it needs, right? And so, but the other concerns hadn't been brought up. They weren't brought up during Sci Quantum, right? They even had drawings right next to the rail lines, didn't seem to care. So trying to figure out if this is even practical or not before we engage a clear RFQ and RFP process for data centers, if we find out it's impractical, I think is important, right? So you're saying, like, maybe a way to do it is, like, we can approve, but wait for this information to come back before we really truly engage to see if it's even.
And we could also use the task one, the vetting of the different companies. They could reach out to each of those companies. I'm sure that they have all looked at this site ad nauseum at this point. And so they're fully aware of all the conditions, and simply ask them, is this a detractor from you wanting to submit on a project like this? And if 0 out of 10 want to submit on it because they've studied it further or whatever the case may be, then we have our answer. But if 6 of them say, no, we have solutions for all that stuff, we have mitigations that we have used in other places, we feel totally comfortable with it, then I would say that it's certainly worth going forward with.
Okay, all right. So the recommendation is we go ahead and approve it, but we don't have to spend funds on it until we hear, like, what's going on, so, okay. Is everyone good then with that approach? All right, so we'll put it on consent. All right, then, Public Works, what do you got, Brian?
Yeah, so I had a request for approval of resolution number 25-019, authorizing the approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Lockport and Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network. The Mutual Aid Network basically was established in 2009. The city is actually currently is with an IGA with them. Last fall, their board met and did some amendments to their bylaws, basically entailing that one of the things when they originally created was for emergency purposes. So intergovernmental intergovernmental cooperation would occur between municipalities during a natural disaster or some kind of a flood event or windstorm or something like that. It allowed the, governments to be able to quickly react and support each other. What they've actually done is amended it to now to more of a day-to-day basis. So if we had, for some reason, the need for more chippers to get done, to remove more trees or something of that nature, we'd be able to call other municipalities that are along this and kind of work together to do it. So it kind of allows those intergovernmental agreements to happen. Also, they're transitioning from a nonprofit when they started to more of a governmental league. This allows them to have a little bit more flexibility in their bylaws to be more of a government agency to enter in and work with other municipalities at the same level. So those are the two major ones. So we're just looking to basically continue an intergovernmental agreement with them. So with approval, it would be, we would just enter back into and re-sign another one and continue our relationship with them.
I had a question, Brian.
Yeah.
You mentioned day-to-day or the disaster thing. How does that work when we're providing services like that to another community? Is that billed out, or is that covered under FEMA, or?
It is actually, it's volunteer. So we're actually supporting, hoping that, like, we've done it when, I think Woodridge and Naperville had the storm. We went up and our guys went up there with our chippers and us, and we helped them clear off some of their stuff. Just like there was a storm damage, I forget exactly, I wasn't here at Lockport, but we actually used other municipalities to help us do one of the microbursts that came through. So they came out, and what it is this allows people to kind of work on a pro bono. So if I support you, they're going to support us. And it kind of goes where it's not actually we're billing to someone, it's there. Now, if it does go to FEMA funds and something gets that large, the municipalities would be able to claim those, but it's really just trying to help each other out, be good neighbors is what it comes down to.
Is there, excuse me, is there an opportunity as it relates to like day-to-day operations to put in an order amongst a bunch of municipalities for salt or chemicals for water treatment or equipment? If it, you know, if 5 members needed crane trucks, you could approach one vendor and get a
Yeah,
better
it
deal?
would be, it wasn't for purchasing and being able to share. It would be like if, say we ran short and salt, and we couldn't get salt in a storm event, we would be able to then reach out and hopefully get it from New Lenox and all that. And there's already kind of a mechanism in, instead of having to go to council and have the director go, well, I got to go to city council, you're going to have to wait 2 weeks. It's something that is already kind of set up that allows us to kind of enter into those agreements, to do it, and then report back to you that these actions happened.
So Jonathan, we belong to the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative, and that's where we can get equipment that there's already a bid that's gone out, and any municipality can obtain equipment through them. So we use them a lot for state contracts and things like that. So that's kind of separate from what he's talking about here, but we do belong to that.
Kind of like a reciprocity. And I like the fact that you're not asking for gobs of money.
Scratch chip my tree, I'll chip yours.
All right, you all good? You're looking for a consent agenda item on that? All righty. All right, so that closes our regular business. So now we can kind of get to like the discussion while you guys are all here. So let me, I have a few cards. Let me try to give address some of it holistically for everybody, and maybe it'll answer some questions. And then after that, you know, please, council members, Darren especially, you've been here the whole time with me. If there's things that I wasn't clear on, please feel free to jump in when I'm done and kind of, and Scott, if you don't mind, if you can come up here, so in case there's questions, Scott works for our water department, so kind of, let's go back to how all this happened. So we had a very high bill this month, and of course, it, you know, caused concern. People are like, why is my bill so high? And then that turned into, well, if I'm paying so much money, why am I paying so much money for this water that I don't even like? And then if we don't like our water, why don't we get American water? So I think it's kind of the way the conversation progressed. And so let me kind of address the first one. So the first one, the billing. The billing is a problem of kind of a perfect storm. So about a year ago, we had to raise our rates for water. And we had to do it progressively over a few years, and there's just like this, it's online. You can go watch the whole conversation of how we chose the rating that we were going to do in the system. But we had to raise the rates because we have a $60 million wastewater treatment plant that we have to build. Our wastewater treatment plant is about 60-plus years old, and it really needs to be rebuilt. The other wastewater treatment plant that we use in the city is called Bonnie Bray, and that is going to come offline because it is it wasn't really a Lockport water treatment plant. It was Bonnie Bray's treatment plant, which is another kind of governing entity, and we used it, but that has to come offline. And so with that coming offline on our old system, this is why we had this $60 million fix that we have to do on the wastewater treatment plant, which we've started, and it's, you know, we're going on it, and that was why the rate system increased. So our rates increase every January, they go up a little bit. Secondly, in January, it's the holiday billing month, and everybody always uses a little bit more water than they normally use, so you had that. And then the third piece of it was, there was an extra week that got there. Sometimes there's 5 weeks, sometimes there's 4 weeks, this happened to be 5 weeks. So you had the perfect storm of the new rate, the higher usage that tends to come in that month, and then the extra week. So naturally, it would be concerning. I mean, one thing we already talked about was like, okay, look, if January is the highest usage rate from December, maybe we should have it on the lowest rate. So maybe next year, instead of January, we move that rate to March, which is actually historically our lowest, so that we can kind of avoid that perfect storm again. So I think that's a reasonable thing to do. But, so that's the reason why the bills were extra high. And then But that led to the quality of the water. So I'm going to give you guys an understanding, and this is good too for some of our council members who haven't been here. Like I said, Darren and I have been here since kind of the beginning of when we really started to deal with the water. So 12 years ago and beyond, the city was not very proactive in taking care of the water system. In fact, it worked, it was in the red, they didn't even bring in enough revenue to cover the bills for it. And the way Illinois law works is you have to fund your water system solely by water rates. You can't use general fund money, you can't use sales tax property, it has to be done through the water bill. And so, or IEPA funds or bonds that come specifically for water, but you can't do it outside of that. And the water bills at the time were very low because city council's like, I'm not raising them, but we weren't even covering the cost. And so 12 years ago, they ended up raising the rates to at least cover the cost of the bills and our system. And then it's like, okay, some of the ways that prior councils had tried to address things like wells when they needed to be repaired or, refurbished was they would just shut them down. They're like, well, you know what, this well is bad, why don't we just, here's the solution, we'll just close it. That way we'll save lots of money. The problem is, it's like having an 18-wheeler truck, right? You can lose one tire and keep riding, but you can't keep doing that forever. And the more tires you lose, it starts to become very dangerous. And so just closing wells was a bad idea.
Can I add something
Yeah,
right here?
please.
So prior to that, during the years 2011, 2013, we had a council who did decide to go ahead and close down 3 wells. Now, the concern that I had at the time was it brought us down below something called fire flow, which means the amount of water you need to go ahead and put out a major fire, have complete operation within the town at the same time, and have the entire system be recharged within 24 hours, I believe it is. Okay, so we had. I don't remember the exact number. Let's say the exact number was 8, and we dropped down to like a 6. So it was terrifying.
It was bad. And in fact, one of the reasons we lost the Embers building at the time used to be, what was it called back then? Dreams Building, yeah, the Vols building. The reason it burned down is because the water mains were this big, and we didn't have the pressure, and it was a windy day, and it was the water main, the fire hose was just, the wind was blowing the water off the building. It wasn't even strong enough to hit the building. So that was what we faced when we came in.
And not only that here is we also had water mains that, I would say, from Madison Street down, I would say virtually all the water mains were at least 80 years old.
Yeah.
We had water mains that were, we had 12th Street we did last year. That was the oldest water main in town. That was well over 100 years, and we're doing 11th Street this year, which is also over 100 years. So by having all these terrible mains, that it would, with water would break after break after break, we were losing 25 to 30% of all the water we're pumping out of the ground. We're just losing it because the pipes were no good. And yes, the previous councils for decades never ever wanted to do anything because it was going to cost $1 or $2.
So if you can go to the next slide, it kind of shows what, so one of the things we did as a council is when we came on board, it's like, we have to fix these water mains. Not only were they problematic because they were old, a lot of times they dead-ended, right? When you have a dead-end water main, the residents on the ends of those dead ends would collect a lot of sediment. Even we came in here with water to show samples of like really dark brown water. Bill Maloney's water was terrible because it was at the end of the water main, and so that stuff would collect. Not to mention that water main was the worst. But, so what we started doing was systematically fixing these water mains. All those red lines show you the CIP, capital improvement plan water main projects that we've repaired in the last 10 years, really, 11 years.
Let me interject here. So what we did early on in early 2013, September 2013, we happened to go to a seminar, something called the Illinois Municipal League up in Chicago. Myself and our city administrator happened to be sitting in our seminar, And they were talking about every municipality should have 3 types of plans: comprehensive plan, master plan, and a strategic plan. I remember turning to Ben and saying, well, I've read the comprehensive plan, have you? He said, yes. And I said, well, they just said we should update these every 5 years. It was 2013, but it hadn't been updated since 1995. We had various master plans, downtown master plan, about 6 or 8 very master plans. None of them were 5 years or younger. What I said, have you seen a strategic plan? And he said, no, I haven't seen a strategic plan. And I remember saying, I don't even know what I'm asking, but I'm absolutely certain that's our number one goal over the next 12 months. Brought that to the council, and that is the beginning of what we did.
So we instituted a CIP because, as a council, we all knew that there was a problem, and we had to address it. It's why we all ran for office at the time, was to address it. And so we came up, instead of just doing it the way it used to be done, which was an alderman would say, hey, I want my block fixed, we said, let's come up with a systematic plan from the worst, projects, the most critical pieces, and go from there. So we started to replace these water mains. And you guys have seen the roads torn up here in the old downtown, right? Because you got to dig up the whole road, and you got to replace the water lines. We had to, then resurface, it's a whole thing. Reconstruction, it's a complete reconstruction.
One more thing. So what we did here is, I remember it took the city engineer probably 6 to 9 months to go and put this together. And she put together a booklet. It was probably 3/4 of an inch thick. And the beauty of it was a 10-year program, 2016. Well, the first one was 2014 to 2016, because what we had to do is make sure we had water down to State Street, so we could go underneath State Street when IDOT came through to go ahead and redo their thing, because it made no sense to go ahead and have IDOT put a brand-new road in, and then a year or two later, we go ahead, we ruin the road, cut the road, so we can go ahead and put in a new water main. That was number one. But then we cut the CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan, which anybody can see online. It's really our most valuable document. In there, it will show projects, yearly projects, 20, 25, number 1, 2, or 3. But the beauty of it also is there's four categories for the revenue. Where's the funding coming from? Okay, and so we've been able to do that. And by having this, we also told the contractors to go ahead and say, look, it was $186 million was the capital improvement plan. And I can remember we're all looking at ourselves as, what do we get ourselves into? Because we hadn't spent a dollar yet, okay? So by having this plan and then giving this plan to the various contractors, PT Farrow, Deconstruction, Austin Tyler, you're all going to get a piece of it. Give us good bids, and they did. So we were able to bundle. We were able to work in this section of town this year, this section of town this year, and this section, and it's probably saved saved us probably $25 to $30 million. And we're able to do things that are on our B list and C list that if we ever had any money, by bundling everything. So at the end of this construction season in the fall, we will have spent, it's right at about $181 million on infrastructure improvements, and at least 50% of that has been on water mains, sewers, storm sewers, wells, you name it.
So then, so with respect, let's stick to the water, because it's right there here. So we went through the process of fixing these water mains. And the reason is, again, you can have a good heart, but if all your arteries are clogged and all your veins, it doesn't do a lot of good. So we had to fix these water mains to get, water to there and stop every time you have a main break and these guys have to fix it, it just adds sediment into it and would always cause problems. So we went through the long process of doing all these pieces. And of course, we can't do it all in 1 year. We have to do it little by little, and this is where we are after 12 years. So that was one piece that we did. The other thing that we did was we decided we have to start fixing these wells instead of shutting them down. So sometimes these wells were so bad that when we started working on them, they would collapse, and we had to dig another well. But we systematically worked to redo our wells. We put iron filtration systems on some of them because we understand the hardness, and we tried to reduce that with iron filtration. Then we even ran into some problems where we couldn't even dig any more shallow wells, and Alderman Deskin was constantly pushing the IEPA to allow us to dig, and the IEPA was concerned about dragonflies. But while that was going on, we were able, though, to move forward with a deep well. So there's two different aquifers. There's a shallow well, which has more sediments, and then there's a deeper well. We hadn't used deep wells in the past because they had radon, and there was no way of clearing radon out of water back in the day. But we do have the technology to get rid of radon, and the water actually is a little bit cleaner. So we decided to do a deep well, our first deep well in forever. Everything else is shallow. And so we dug a deep well at 151st Street. And we started digging that in 2018. And again, some of the purpose of it was to get past the hard water that we use. It's not dangerous, it's just hard. But we went down to the deeper well to bring that in and blend it in with our water. The struggle we've had, quite frankly, with the deep well is we've just had problem getting it online. Even digging the well, we had problems. They were digging it and the bit kept breaking. It was like, Ben Affleck and Armageddon, right? The bit kept breaking, and it was like, that was problems, and it dragged out for more time. And then when we finally got the well dug, the engineering company had kind of miscalculated the pump size and the motor size, and so it's just been a constant battle, right? It's like one of those projects where nothing was going right. Actually, quite frankly, even today, I was talking to Scott Green, it's like today, for the first time ever, we've been able to actually have the pump work properly. And so that's really great news. Part of it, that means then we can bring this cleaner water into the system. And the other thing we did over these years as we were adding to the pipelines is we created a loop. If you look at this map, going kind of northeast, there was a pipe, kind of a main artery, and then southeast was a main artery. It was like a V. So what we did was at 151st and I-355, you can kind of see that blue little box up there. That's the deep well. We then built a water main to go from 151st Street all the way down south to connect to the lower loop. So we would have a full loop. So when we bring this water in finally and we blend it, because we do have to blend it first, you can't just put it right in. And the goal has always been to have a cleaner water flow and it circulate better throughout the town. And increase, as Darren said, our fire flow, our water flow, for all, so it helping get the better water in. I think some of the struggle that we have with it is still, it's like, it is hard water. It's where we live. Anybody who has to take well water has hard water. It has calcium, it has iron, it has magnesium, and some people just don't prefer it. It's not dangerous. These are all the same minerals you take in your one-a-day capsule. They're not dangerous to you. But, and they all are within the levels that are acceptable from an IEPA. This is a lot of times it's just preference. People don't like them. Are they harder on our appliances? Yes, I believe they are harder on our appliances. There's no doubt about it. I have a water softener. When I first moved into the house, I replaced the water heater because it was on the fritz. I found myself replacing again in like about 15 years. And I just live 2 blocks from here, right in the heart of the old downtown water mains. And, it's probably less than what you should be getting out of a hot water heater. But I have learned to actually maintain this one better now that I realize that. Now I drain it better and get the sediments out and such. But it is harder on our appliances. There's no doubt about it, just because it's where we live. It's not like when we send the wells down there that there's a lake, like, Gandalf and the Balrog fall into down there. It's you suck it from rocks, man. So this is why you have this kind of mineral deposits. It's just where we live. Which, so it's just a background on all the work we've done to try to improve it. We should start seeing that deeper well water come in and blend. All those things are good factors on it. I will also say this before I get into the Lake Michigan water part of this, is that anytime you guys have a problem, you call the water department. That's what they're there for. I've heard some comments that, like, I've had to replace dozens of appliances over and over again. If you have to replace that many appliances, I have to think there's something wrong within the house. And that's what we can go there and do. Our city hall water is terrible, right? If you go wash your hands here before you leave, it smells like rust and it's awful. It's not because the source water is bad. I live across the street. My water does not smell like that. It's because the pipes in this building are horrible. They're old and we actually have to redo them. That sometimes happens in here. It could also be that maybe you're still, can you go to that 2 slides back, I think? It could also be that maybe you're on a line that still has to be replaced. These are water main projects that that are ahead of us, right? Some are, red ones are 2025, and you can see 2026, 2027. So these are projects that maybe you still live on one of these water mains where there's a dead end or it's not looped in. That's possible too. But that's what our people are here for. We don't charge you to come out. That's a misnomer. We don't charge to come out and test the water or to give an assessment of what the problem is. The only time we ever charge anything is if sometimes people think that, well, I'm using a lot of water, more water than I think, and I think the meter's broken. If a resident insists that it's the meter and we send it out and the meter is bad, we will replace it for no charge. But if the meter ended up being good and there was nothing wrong with it, then we charge the $100 for the meter. But other than that, there's no charge to come out and test the water and see if it's bad. That's what we do. So feel free and please do that. And especially if you're feeling like you have an inordinate amount of appliance problems, let us come out there and see what the issue is. Maybe we can find what the problem is.
I want to add to the appliance issue. Think back when you were a kid, did your mother ever have to buy packets to treat your washer or your dishwasher? They never did. I think part of the problem, and I'm not saying it's the problem, but part of the problem is the quality of our appliances. I know I'm having to do that every single month. I don't think it's solely based on Lockport water.
I have found that I've gone through 3 refrigerators and it has nothing to do with the water. It's just they're crap, right? Yeah, they are crap. So that's about, yeah, okay. That could be a factor too, no doubt. But as far as like what we're responsible for the water, please call the water department, let us come out and test it and see. So then that comes down to the other question, which is, well, why have this water at all? Why don't we use American water? So here's the situation with not American water, lake water. There is a line that comes down 159th Street. That's the Homer Glen's American Water line. American Water is the private company that supplies Homer Glen with lake water. It ends right at 355 on 159th Street. We actually keep an allotment for that. All the towns and municipalities, like in the Great Lakes region that touch the Great Lakes watershed, are allowed to have an allotment. We keep our allotment. It's about 2.5 million gallons a day, right? Which is actually less than what we use. We use about 3 million gallons, but we've always been able to keep this allotment. And they call us, every year, hey, you guys want to keep this allotment? And we say, yes, we do, just because we like to keep our bases covered. But 12 years ago, when we said, what do we want to do? Do we want to move forward with using American water and having our water sources and our water supply private? Or do we want to fix and repair our wells and have autonomy? Part of the decision-making went into, we have to maintain some of these wells anyway. The IEPA won't let us shut them all down, so we still have to maintain them. And we still had to replace all those water mains. Even if we brought in clear lake water, if we had dead ends and we didn't have good flow and we had collapsing pipes, we still would have had to do all that anyway. It would have been, redundant. Second thing we would have had to do is we would have had to build water towers. You can't have a single point of entry for your water. God forbid anything happened to that single water main, we would be out of water. So we would be forced to build probably about 3 water towers in town. Those are about $15 million each. And then we have to find a place to put them because nobody wants them in their backyard. So we'd have to, have a big battle about where we're going to put them. So that's about $45 million to build the water towers. And then it's still a process. It's still a process that costs millions of dollars to get the water blended properly. Because this is what happened in Flint, Michigan. One of the comments I saw was, we have Flint, Michigan water. Flint, Michigan actually has lake water. The problem was they used to be on wells, and then when they decided, hey, let's get that nice lake water, when they did it, they connected to to the system, and they just opened the spigot, and they didn't blend it properly. It takes a long time. Actually, one of the nice things about our deep well taking time, it's not, the pH levels aren't as drastically different as lake and well water, but we had to blend it over time to make sure that these waters are introduced slowly, because what happened in Flint was, when that different pH water from the lake hit those pipes that had been well water, all the scale and all the stuff that had been in those pipes all broke free, and that is what went into everybody's residences. That's what made the contamination. So it wasn't the source of the water, it was all the piping system, which is probably what we worked on. Another thing we've been working on, by the way, and that's what this slide is there are lead feeders, lead service lines that run from water mains on the street that go up to your home. It's on your property, and, you know, people are responsible for their own feeder lines, but we recognize that that's problematic, and so the city has had a very aggressive program over the last few years where we have been changing the lead service lines to your houses. I think, what did we have when we started, Scott, like a couple hundred?
Yeah, we already changed out about 136, I think-ish.
We've changed about 136. There's still like 45 left. You can see those red dots where lead service lines are. Actually, my house is one of the red dots. I still have a lead service line. But every year, we've been getting about 20 or 30 of these done. So we're really close to getting it done. Other municipalities have been waiting for federal grants to change lead lines, and they haven't even started this in their communities. We did not wait for grants. We just moved forward and started changing them with, you know, out of our own budget, because we wanted to be proactive on it. So that also can cause problems in your home if you have that. And still, we monitor it. I mean, I know sometimes I'll see a testing bottle outside my door where they still will test it for lead, and it's still under the available limits. I know other neighbors that have these same red dots get tested too. Fortunately, it's been under, but still, we've been moving forward to replace those. But all this stuff has to be done regardless of Lake Michigan water. But going back to the American Water thing, so we would have had about $45 million to build water towers. We would have had to spend the money and the effort that goes into blending it, and then, even though we actually have decent rates negotiated right now with American Water, we would actually pay less for the water than Homer Glen is paying, which if you go watch a Homer Glen thread, they're all up in arms about how much the water is. And maybe that sounds good, but my God, it's like when you get cable. Hey, you guys want the $9.99 deal, right? Yeah, for 3 months, and then after that, it goes up. So of course they are giving us a great rate, because once we're on, we'll be that tall red line that Homer Glen is. And while the state doesn't just let American Water or private industry go willy-nilly with your water bill, they, you know, are sympathetic when, you know, American Water goes before the state and says, listen, we have to raise these rates because this is our problem, and, you know, we have to fix this and we have to do that, and they generally get their rates approved, right? So they do go up. And so regardless of what the rate would be when we start, getting it from American Water via Homer Glen was going to be problematic. We're like, who wants to be, you know, we'd rather have autonomy over our water system, and we're going to fix our wells, and we're going to add these
Can I
things.
just interject one thing? So if you would have read last weekend's Joliet Herald News, they had an article about Joliet upgrading their system to get ready for 2030 for Lake Michigan water. Last year, in 2024, Joliet spent $60 million to go ahead and upgrade. This year, they're beginning a $192 million project for 5 years, $38 million a year that they're going to be spending just to replace the water mains to get ready for this.
And understand, so that's the other piece. So American Water, you know, we're like, we do not want to be beholden to a private company. I mean, at least here, if you're upset with your water, you can come in here and talk to us, or we can get the water guys to go out. If you have a problem with American Water, what are you going to be stuck on a phone tree for half an hour, right? And then, and if you really can't stand the water, you put your name on a ballot and you run on council and you make it change, because you have autonomy over your water. And so this is why we decided to fix our wells and move forward with that and keep autonomy. Now, as Darren alluded to, there was another opportunity for lake water, and that was, what is it called? The Lake Michigan, what do they call that? The Great Grand Prairie Water Commission. So Joliet realized that they take 30 million gallons a day out of the aquifer. And by their projections, that meant they would drain the aquifer within 20 years. So they had to come up with a solution. So they decided, instead of being beholden to a private company like American Water, that they would run their own water main all the way to Lake Michigan. It's a big, big project. In fact, it's a $1 billion project. I mean, like the, $1 billion project. And so Joliet thought, hey, maybe I can get some of the other municipalities to go in on it. So they asked Crest Hill, Romaville, Lockport, hey, you guys want to go in on this? $150 million buy-in. So, $150 million buy-in. Okay, yeah, we don't have $150 million buy-in. And amortizing $150 million into our water bill would be unsustainable. But even still, that's not even the end of the cost. That was just the share in the cost to run the pipeline to the Lake Michigan. It would have been an estimated another further $25 million then to connect it to our system. We still would have had to build those water towers because we would have had a single point of entry for the water. So you would have had another $45 million or so for 3 different water towers. We still would have had to go through the blending process. And so, I mean, you're talking about $175, $180 million. That's not something. If you think your water bill is horrible, do you imagine trying to amortize $180 million into it? It's just not realistic. And I've heard people say, like, wow, I'm from Crest Hill, and they told us our water bill is not going to change. There is no way that that is possible. There's absolutely no way. And it's not like Romeoville and Crest Hill wrote checks. They just said, yeah, we'll be good for it. It's just not going to happen. And then the other part of this is like, okay, well, if Joliet, Crest Hill, Romaville all get off the aquifers, the deep aquifer and the shallow aquifer, well, it's Lockport's aquifer now, right? And the sustainability piece of that, now, it's not going to run out. We take 3 million gallons a year from it. It's at a place where it's got sustainability of recharging, right? It's in a place where we don't have to worry about it, like, how are we going to dry this thing up in 20 years? But it actually goes back to other things that we do to think about water conservation. One of the things that Christina was talking about earlier was we've been working towards a native plantings initiative here in town where, prairie grasses don't need the water. They have deep, deep roots and they remain green all year round. We all know no matter what you water your lawn here, it's brown by, the end of July. It's because they're not native here. And so mixing in native plantings in our yards and doing it slowly. We realize if everybody just did full native plantings in their yards, people would be bananas because they think it's just a bunch of weeds. But doing it slowly and selectively and partially, just building up an understanding of why these kind of plants are good, and you don't have to put millions of gallons of water into the ground every year and just waste it. And that helps with recharging, keeping our sustainable sources. We've been doing rain barrel programs too. I mean, they're small steps, but it's about being understanding and respectful for the aquifers that we will have, and especially when all these guys are off of it, we will have complete autonomy over these aquifers and our wells. Continue to do what we can to blend that water and make it clear. And so that's kind of the big picture of the water history. Now, yes, on this slide here, again, what if something's wrong? I feel like something's bad. If you feel like your water usage is higher than it should be, and I've checked all the toilets, there's no toilets running, something's wrong, just call us. We will come out and look. We find stuff all the time where there's a leak and can help fix the problem, or show you. We don't fix it, but we show you what the problem is so you can fix it. If there's changes in the water quality, if something's suddenly wrong, or if there's discoloration, call us. Let us come out, do the testing, figure out what the problem is. Again, there's no charge for us to go out and look and review your water. So phone number's there, option 3. I guess that's kind of the big picture of the water. I don't know if I missed anything. Darren, is there anything else you could think of?
Well, so, yes, we have been working on it for a long, long time.
So, that said, hopefully that maybe answers a few questions that folks have. But we have our cards, so for people to come up and be able to share their thoughts. I ask that you just, when I call your name, just come up to the podium and state your name, so I know what, and then we'll hear you out. We try to limit it to 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes is longer than you think, but if it goes longer, we can chat, but try to be mindful of the time. And so there you go. So first, speaker card is there anything council wants to add before I go to cards? Okay. Yeah.
I'm really happy to see this many people out in the crowd. We were thinking that there was going to be a few people. The fact that you're here and willing to talk, and express your concerns is fantastic. At the bottom of that slide there, contact your alder person if you have an issue. This kind of stemmed from the Facebook, and it became a bad Miller Lite commercial. Tastes great, less filling, more, less filling, or great, whatever. But people on Facebook are not going to be able to help you other than, 2 people with an issue becomes 4 people with an issue, and then it just grows instead of just taking it to the people that can really help. And I know I got involved, and I do that, and after it blows up in my face, I wish I hadn't, but the long story short is, Facebook is typically a place to vent. A lot of people do it anonymously, so you don't know who's saying it, and that's fine, because a lot of times you vent and you're okay with it, but if there's really an issue that you're having, the 8 people up here are the people you want to contact if, in fact, you don't feel like you're getting lip service instead of action. I know a lot of people had come to the city council or to the water department and talked about their bill being high. Well, come to find out that, as Steve mentioned earlier, holiday month, a lot of people coming over, wash more dishes, flush more toilets, and even my bill went from 6 to 8 because we did a lot of entertaining over the holiday. So, like Steve said, it's a perfect storm. So you can look at it and go, oh my God, or, check with us. Maybe we have an answer as to the reason why. But I think you're going to get better solutions if you come to us one-on-one. And then you can go back to whatever, Facebook and say, hey, I talked to Pat or Jonathan or Darren. Here's what the problem is. And you can help us, and you become ambassadors to put the information out to the community, or not. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, you want to vent, nobody's stopping it. But if you really want solutions, just come in and talk to us. This is where we do our job, is in here. So, okay, Ray, I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your last name. Ray Alcala, thank you. Please.
Hi, I'm Ray Alcala. I just want to thank everyone here for giving us the opportunity to speak on some important issues, and you did cover a lot of the things that I was asking. I know a lot of people live in Homer Glen, and they're always crying about their $212 water bill. I mean, every time I see them, oh, my water bill, well, you wanted city water, and you wanted to go private, and that's what you get, and people say that they think they're going to get better water. So there's only a couple ways you get better water. You got to put in a whole house filter. You got to put in a softener. I have reverse osmosis. You have to change your pipes. When I moved in, I took out all my lead pipes, galvanized pipes, put in all copper pipes. I took out all my cast iron, and I put in PVC. Now, if you don't have the skill, you need to get a plumber, and you need to change your pipes, because just as you guys are changing the mains, if you don't get that rust out of the lines that are feeding your appliances, everything's just going to go to crap, pardon the pun, but that's what's going to happen. So I've been in my house 32 years. I've changed 7 toilets. I can't count how many fixtures, how many showers. But in 3 years, I put in my new softener. I put salt every 3 to 4 months. I haven't had any problems at all. I've had no leaky faucets. I've taken O-rings out, and I'm not even getting calcium deposits. I still get a little on the shower, a little calcium, but that could be from shampoo. It's not necessarily from the water. But, personally, and I'm at the end of the line. I'm one of those houses at State and New Avenue where, we were the last house to get water. Matter of fact, Scott's been out to my house. We couldn't find the Buffalo box. So I had to change my main shutoff on my meter, and I had to do it live. So if you ever seen a Three Stooges movie, that was me. I had everything all soldered and ready, and then I just turned it on and let the water just shoot all over the basement. But, we couldn't find the box, but we found it recently. When you guys did all the main changes, it happened to be on the next block. It was on Hamilton Street.
Wow.
But, I just wanted to come because I wanted to see about the American Resource, or the private project. I wanted to get a little update on what's been going on because I hadn't had access to, what is going on. but I do have one problem with my sewer. So whenever it rains, you guys know Lockport's on a hill, and I'm at New Avenue. So by the time the water goes down, my yard floods. So we put in French drains, we put in an 8-inch line, we put in river rock, my yard turns into a lake. You know, and there was a sewer coming from the road. When they redid the road construction, and they moved the pipes, they put that sewer to come out into my yard. Well, I have videos of my yard looks like the Mississippi, just everything washing away. My wife plants natives, and she does a lot of other things to try to retain the erosion. But when the water's coming at that force, you can't stop it. You know, you guys know how it used to be at Delwood Park before they put that drain in, you know, and then it's the same way usually around, I want to say, Division, and then we're at Market Street. So Market and Franklin, it totally floods. The whole right lane before it merges is full. So I've tried contacting the state. I've tried contacting the state's representative. I've come to the water department, but there's kind of an issue because you guys own the sewer, but the state owns the road. So I'll speak with someone privately, and maybe we can, you know, get back on that project and see if there's something else we could do. But, you know, I'm glad that the new administration has been trying to do something, and I know people that lived in Bonnie Bray, and I had lived in Lockport Heights at one time. We all complained about what was going on. But the number one responsibility is for the residents. I mean, I didn't want to spend the $6,000 on the system I put in, but since I did, all my white clothes are now white. So, you know, you have to kind of weigh things out, and you have to be patient because this is an expensive and long-standing project. It's not something that you guys are going to do in one season. So, you know, people have to keep that in mind. And like you said, I've never had a problem with the water department. Anytime I've had an issue, I come in, I talk to somebody, and they either send somebody right out or they talk to me and schedule an appointment. So, you know, kudos to you guys, and, you know, thanks for trying to make things better. You know, I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Ray.
was nice
Hey,
to
hey,
meet
Ray, give Lance your phone number so we can have somebody reach out about that drainage.
Great, thank you.
But thank you for taking the time to come out. Keith?
Hi, my name's Keith Sieper. I guess my main concern and problem is the damage, like Steve had brought up, the damage done to appliances, where this is a Keurig cocktail maker. This Lockport water sat in this for 1 month in December, untouched. And this is what happened to it, pretty much. December of '24. We didn't feel being alcoholic at night, me and my wife, so I got that much mineral deposits, and I'm in Pat's ward and everything, and I'm around off of Farrell Road, in between 159th and 151st.
Ray, has anybody, or Keith, anybody been to the house yet to do?
Actually, yes, and that's another concern is, like he brought up, he had to replace appliances, pipes. I did the same thing as him. I can't even tell you how many wash machines and dishwashers. Wife won't even use the dishwasher anymore. The main problem comes when it comes down to the septic tank and the sewer line in my basement. The sump pump and everything down there, it's sump pump number 2. After number 2 went in and the problem now came up again, the guy had pretty much went down there and showed me, you got hard mineral buildup so much down here, the only way either we got to take this whole thing out of here and put a brand new system in, or we can put you on a backup sump pump generator. My sump pump doesn't work like anybody else's probably does. It only runs, it gets a little too high, starts beeping, out it goes. Same thing with the sewage line. I don't know if it's related to when Pat posted on Facebook, there was a breakage during construction. I don't know if that affected our division or something, but following his post about that, and I noticed 9 plumbers on my street fixing houses, and I'm in the townhouse, my neighbor to my townhouse, and the guy, he's pumping the gook down out of the house and everything. I decided to go down and take a shower 2 weeks ago. Lo and behold, use the shower, go to the bathroom, flush it, go upstairs. Hour later, I hear crash, boom, boom, boxes are falling to the ground. Grandma's ashes go down the sewage drain and everything, the whole damage kits. What do I find out? The sewage line, just from flushing, was so high that and there was so much mineral buildup that it just gave out.
Okay, well, let's,
I got a couple quick questions.
yeah, sure.
Keith, you mentioned that typically in your basement, you have a sump pump,
Correct.
which takes drain tile water, puts it into the sump pit ejects it out to the street. Most of us have ejector pumps in the basement, which if you have, a toilet or a bathroom or a shower in the basement, that goes into the ejector pit.
And I
then
have
the-
that as well.
Okay, so the ejector pit takes that water and whatever else you put in
And I
it.
did notice then running my own test after I cleaned up the flood damage and everything was, I can run my wife can sit in the shower, do her 2-hour shower thing, that nothing's gonna flood down there.
Yeah.
If I flush the toilet, if I use the shower in the basement, or even run the sink, the sewage septic tank thing that's connected in a closet inside the bathroom will start rising slowly, but eventually overflow. It's not going to flood it completely. I think because I was just sat in the shower and the toilet just got flushed at the same time, that it just did overkill and everything went haywire.
I've never heard of that. Maybe you can chime in. Typically,
Here's what I would recommend, Pat. You're not going to be able to problem solve it. What I would say is this: if you had Public Works there and you were unsatisfied, that is why you come to council members. Say, hey, man, I find Public Works is very responsive, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
So if you didn't get the answer you need and you felt like it wasn't thorough, come to us and you say, hey, man, you need something wrong. So then we can tell Public Works, hey, you need to revisit Keith's place and figure out what's going on. So let us do that. Okay? So again, if you can leave your number with Lance, and let's try to get to the bottom of the problem, because it sounds like it's both wastewater and input, and let's see if we can figure that out for
I
you.
guess the final thing would be, me and Pat chit-chatted a little bit, and I did bring up how, fathers in Orland, all this. I understand, let me make sure. The water comes from the, property taxes, that helps fund it, correct?
It has to come from your water bill only. You
Okay,
can't
so
use
just the
property
water
tax.
bill itself. So property tax, raising the property tax would have no effect of helping move us to a Lake Michigan type thing or anything along those lines?
Correct. It's just the way the law works, is the
Okay.
water has to be fully funded by the water bill.
So in other words, let's say, okay, New Lenox has beautiful water, Crest Hill's fine, whatever. If we were to work together as New Lenox and Lockport, go from Silver Cross Hospital, dig up the dirt going along 355 and connect it to over by Gas and Wash, could that be possible to maybe Lockport become Lake Michigan, like he said, this isn't going to happen overnight. I don't expect to go, March 1st, we're going to be done. No, I understand this is going to be a monthly project.
I actually don't know how New Lenox gets their water, if it's through private or if they have part of some municipal sharing system. Okay, so Orland and those guys do it. First off, they'd have to be willing to do it. Second off, we still have to build the water towers. It's still a very costly thing. Doesn't mean that it's not doable. Part of the thing is,
Money.
again, it is money, and money, yes, ultimately, it all comes down to money. If we had the money, we could run a pipe to Fiji, get that Fiji water, but, it is part of the problem. Because I also don't want to put $300 water bills on our residents either.
But like I had brought up the Pat, we did the consumption average, basic math and simple this with Dad. He's two old farts in the home. I got 2 old farts in my home. So do the math, it balances out. He's paying like $5 extra per consumption level. If I'm on consumption level 2, 3 here with a family of 2, I don't mind paying an extra $10 for water, then lugging 80 pounds of softener every month.
I would say this, though, about New Lenox and Orland. Part of the beauty of it is that they're younger towns, right? Probably 25 years ago, Orland Park had 1,000 people. But they didn't have 100-year-old water mains that they had to fix and put money into. They also had, municipal lake water systems built at a time when a pipe is literally going to cost $1 billion for Joliet, probably cost $200 million when they built it. Just the costs are not the same that we would have to bear that they did when they built their systems. And so it becomes unmanageable. I just don't see how to manage it at that kind of cost. That's our bigger struggle with it. So, okay. But let us figure out what the problems are,
Yeah.
okay, Keith, at the building. All right. Randy, what do you got? Do you want to just talk about data centers, the water for it? Yeah.
Randy Juris, I live at townhouses on 151st Street. I can understand everybody's complaints or concerns on the individual basis. Having lived in Homer Glen before moving into the townhouses here.
Just speak just closer to the mic, please.
Oh, okay. The situation here is way better than what Homer Glen has, and anybody that's ever had to deal with Illinois American Water will tell you that no water is almost better than Illinois American Water. But one of the concerns that I have is the data centers that are coming up. I know there's 2 of them that are going to be breaking ground in Minooka this year. And the biggest concerns were energy costs and also water. Depending on who actually builds it, you're going to require a lot of water. Back in 16, when we went to the Will County Network for Sustainability, that's when Allison Swisher was talking about why they had to go into getting a bigger source of water, because as they knew that they were building out, especially when industry was going to be moving in, especially in Jackson County, where they're going to be putting North Point in. So they had to come up with more water. So my concern is that when you start looking at things like data centers and some other things, and understanding that everything that's going to be used for the most part out of Lockport is coming from homegrown water, how close will you be to, you may not have enough water if you start getting more things like data points in. And I could also, knowing how data centers work, you just can't take their water and come back in. It has to be, go back and get the chemicals that they put in for descaling and things of this nature. So it's really a pretty big effort that they're going to have to put them in. And I was just wondering, is that being taken into consideration?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Actually, it is. Even when Sci Quantum was coming, that was, a very exciting project. That was my first question. How much water do you guys need to cool this? And, they had an outrageous number. And I was really clear. I'm like, you can't pull that from our aquifer, man. That's just not gonna work for us. So what we said was, and what made the project possibly viable was, like, look, Citgo pulls water out of the sanitary shipping canal,
Right.
does the cooling, sends it to a pond where it brings the temperature down and returns it back into the canal water. I said, if you guys are open to a system like that, I said, that's something that works for us. Taking it from our groundwater and then just wasting it, right, it's not acceptable. And so I've been very concerned about that. And so these are questions I ask every time. They've talked about different systems with cooling towers where they have storage tank water. They've talked about new systems where they're using glycol to cool instead. So those are all my first questions when the data centers come. I was like, how do you plan on doing it? And would you take it, if you could take advantage of, sanitary shipping canal water, that, makes sense to me. So this is what we've been exploring. And you are asking the right question, Randy.
Interesting thing, though, about going back to Homer Glen, and then recently, when I was in Bolingbrook, the amount of people that were complaining about the ICC's lack of thinking about residents rather than the Illinois American Water and Aqua in this particular area. And it was an interesting discussion because the ICC seems perfectly willing to bankroll the expansion of their business. Not like if you own your own gas station or something, you have to put your own money into it to make it go. The towers you were talking about why doesn't Illinois American Water subsidize or even build those towers themselves if they're coming in? Just because.
Well, they will, but they'll charge you. They're still going to charge us. They're not going to do it for free. So all it will be is added to the bill. It still gets amortized in there. Plus, they have to make a profit. They have to answer to a board. Because the one nice thing about this is this isn't a profit source water system. It's,
And the final thing I have on that is that you brought up a very good point. You can't, as a person that's on IEW system, go anywhere else. You just can't. And you also don't have any chance to change any of their managerial situations.
Right.
Regardless of what the profit margin is, it can't be changed. It's better to have the government own it.
so then you see the Bolingbrook's in a lawsuit. There's always lawsuits challenging them, so it is tough. Thanks, Randy. Vicki?
Hi, good evening. I'm Vicki Bozen, and I am happy to hear that you're not looking to go with Illinois American, especially from talking to my Homer Glen friends. It is pretty crazy, the water rates. But of course, I do want good quality water for me and my family. That, goes without saying. My biggest concern is when I was looking online at total dissolved solids, TDS, and I do have a TDS meter. I've had it for years and I never really used it. My daughter all of a sudden came home one day, she lives downtown, and she's like, "Did you see all this stuff about your water?" I'm like, "No, what's going on?" She was very frantic. And so we were kind of looking to see what does this do, this TDS, this total dissolved solids. And I understand that it is minerals and salts, which is naturally occurring. My biggest concern is the other substances that are dissolved in the water. When I tested my water, it was anywhere between 500 to 600 plus. And really the EPA is saying around 300 is normal drinking water, healthy drinking water. There's other places that have said, yes, you can go up to 600, but I know you mentioned Flint, Michigan. That's kind of their situation, 500 over, 600 over that. Of course, I always worry about families, kids, our community. I do want the best water, but I adamantly am against Illinois American, and I agree with you, Steve, that I feel that, yes, they're going to get us in at a very low rate, but come 2, 3, 5, 10 years, there's no saying what they could charge us. And once we hand over our water lines, we've got no control, and that's a major problem. So there has to be a solution. I'd like to talk to you about your water softener that you bought. I know you said it was $6,000. I had Culligan at my house, and he did look at a couple different levels of where we're at with our water, but really he wasn't offering me a solution. And I'm not going to go with Culligan. So if you have Culligan, I'm not interested. No. But if you have something else, I definitely would like to find out what you have. Yeah. Hopefully, maybe if this is something good that does work, maybe we could let other residents also know about it as an option, or maybe have some kind of a buying program for everyone to invest in something like this.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Can I
much.
just add to what she just said?
Yeah.
I put in a brand new 3,000 water softener with filtration.
Yeah.
This bottle was filled up 24 hours ago from a faucet with a filter. Now, if you give it a good shake, and look at this thing, you could actually see the little white particles of mineral crud. And this is just coming out of a filter, out of the softener, which has a filter on a faucet.
Yeah, really, the only thing that works.
This is what's building up in my sump pump, and why I'm running on a generator.
No, I hear you, Keith,
the only
and
thing that
it's
really
got to
works
be,
is that reverse
let us get in there, because there's got to be something more to it.
There's
'cause-
got to be something, I just want to
Yeah.
get an answer. Okay, got the filter on, softener.
Right.
Yes, Vicki, I just want to say, this is out of my drinking water, but we do have reverse osmosis and we do have a water softener. I only drink out of my we have a separate spigot for our drinking water, but this is it.
Well, we don't
And it's clear,
we don't have
so.
the reverse osmosis, so what I will do is I will buy gallons of water.
Yeah, that's what we used to
The
do.
grocery store, and even if I'm making pasta or something like that, I'll fill my pan or pot, whatever, with bottled water. I will
Yes.
not use the water from the faucet to even boil my pasta.
Yeah.
So, I just want to kind of say that our water is horrible.
No, I agree. I used to live on Hamilton, and we never drank out of the faucet,
Right.
but we now. But that was
replaced all the water?
No, it was before you replaced them all. So right when we were moving, it was replaced, and it did get better. But we're off of Farrell now, and
Yeah.
I mean, I like our. But you have to invest the money in like a reverse osmosis or something in addition to the water softener.
Correct.
But it is doable.
Yes.
And we do have a TDS meter, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was
And it does
fine.
fluctuate because I did go to a couple different neighbors to see kind of what theirs were, and they were all around between 450 to 6-something, so it did fluctuate between my neighbors, but.
Did you take it off the cold tap or the hot tap?
Off the cold.
Cold? The hot will give you a better average because it's always mixing.
Okay. Yeah, I just figured it was already going through the water
Yeah.
heater, and our water heater is probably 5 years old, so I just thought, oh, there's probably some sediment in there, so I wasn't
Sure,
gonna
there
do
absolutely
that.
is, yeah.
And Vicki, so you're in Homer Glen and you're getting?
No, I'm in Lockport.
Oh, you are in
Yeah, I
Lockport,
live
I'm
right by
sorry.
the high school, on Westwood, and I just was wondering too, like, you're talking about these lead pipes. We built our house in '93, we have nothing to be concerned about for that, correct?
No,
Or-
that's
Okay.
If you can look on that map.
Yeah, I didn't see my house on that, so that's all that was left on it. Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. And her number is 500, is that what you would consider acceptable, or is those?
That total dissolved solids is more of a wastewater test. That just became more of a water test after 2020. 500 to 900, you've seen, it's all from the minerals and the hardness in there.
Do you feel like you should go over there and test Vicky's water and see, or do you feel like just?
That's, it's more of a water quality. You'd have to send that to a lab. I don't know how good the personal testers, or the ones who get the hardware store work on something like that. We don't have any testers for it, so.
Okay.
That's more of a
Oh, so
lab.
total dissolved solids is different from the testing you do for
But,
iron calcium?
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I would have thought it's the same thing, isn't that what the dissolved?
No,
solid is?
I didn't see a total dissolved solids test until 2020.
Okay.
And I've been here since '98, so.
Okay.
It's kind of a much newer testing.
All right, if you don't mind, I'd like to understand that better later, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mary, come on up.
Greetings and great appreciation for the time being taken tonight. I live in this downtown district too. We've been here for a few years now. Love Lockport, yay Lockport. Hate our water, ooh, let's make it better through whatever knowledge sources. At our house, which I believe I identified it as a red dot, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, from 8 a.m. till noon, maybe 1, we can't use any water. It comes out smelling like chlorine.
Aren't you right here in the corner, right?
Yeah. Or some kind of chemical agent, which I'm grateful for. It's better to have treatment than bacteria. So
Would you find it very specific to those times?
those days, those times.
Okay.
So process of elimination helps me decide, hey, this is treatments or something that's going on specific to our area.
Okay.
So segueing, first, thank you, completely am there with you. I never cook pasta, potatoes, vegetables, any absorbing product in tap water. Haven't drank the water in our house for 4 years. We used to bring in bottled water, the big ones, flip it over, horrible, very inconvenient. And I couldn't keep my disabled daughter from forgetting, use this water, not this. So we went a step higher, changed out, the softeners, put in, as outrageous and psychotic as this is going to sound, I put in a Berkey. We've got a filter on the tap. We tap the water. We put it in the Berkey. We run the drinking water, cooking water, dog's water, indoor plant water through our Berkey, buy a lot of new filters. The last 2 years have been trending even worse. Our own neurological problems have spiked. We spend more time in the neuro unit at Rush than we did before. Seizure frequency is doubled.
I can actually back her up with that. I am epileptic, and in the past 2-3 years, I've actually had 2 car accidents because of seizure related, which now it makes me question, was it because I drank 3 cups of coffee with Lockport water, in the morning?
Yeah.
What? But I have also experienced what she has experienced.
I feel bad for you.
I would say, the problem started, around COVID time, which would be probably 3 years, 4 years. So yes, and to her, what she just said, I can back up as well.
I wouldn't want to make that kind of blanket statement because it's unfair, and I don't want my neighbors to start making blanket statements. What I would do is what I'm going to say. I'm requesting EPA testing. I want to know, and I'm looking at the reports, but they're behind. You can't get a current report. So when I go speak with our family neurologist and we go in for 3 days evaluations, I can't say these are the things that are affecting our blood reports because I've got nothing to support it. Sure. And as you stated, those little independent tests don't get it done. I need to know what's affecting our seizure disorders, and it's associated with where we live. The other thing on a very soft note is it's getting really expensive to keep replacing my landscaping, and I like it. And I'm spending too much on my plants that I'm watering, and they're dying, and I'm testing soil, and it's showing poor pH levels. The only thing it can be is the water. So for me, in a very selfish way, as soon as my husband can retire, we want to go to Idaho. But I can't do so. I can't sell the house in good faith and not be honest and disclose our experience in Lockport.
Well, let's do this, Mary. So, first off, it comes to your garden. I kill everything, so maybe I can blame the water because I can't grow anything. All of a sudden, I didn't know I could blame the water, but my neighbor grows everything, so I think it's still me. But let's do this. The other stuff is very, very serious, and so I don't understand why some parts of the day seem worse than others, and that needs to be investigated. That if you're finding this, then we need to look at it, figure out if there's some validity to it, or if there's something going on. I mean, just because I can't figure out what that could possibly be doesn't mean there's not something. So let's investigate it for you, because there are a million and one things that could be affecting us. And I don't want to discount the concerns that anyone would have of like, what's causing this? Is it the air? Is it my water? Is it medication? We don't know. But if we can rule out something, then that's great. Or if we find out there's a problem, then we have to deal with it, right? But if we can get to the bottom of it and understand if that is in fact a problem, I want to do that. So make sure I mean, I know where you live, but make sure you leave your number with Lance, and we can have Scott and the crews go over there and try to look into this a little bit more.
Thank you. That's wonderful that you would be so accommodating and willing. I would also like to say, though, I grew up in Wheaton. We had a private well. So, I mean, the mandated, because 9 homes were on the well, EPA regulation, requirement, testing, frequency, right on down the line, might be a nice thing to offer out to the community. I would pay.
How often does EPA look at, is it yearly, annual they do the testing?
Report's always a year behind, so, but all of our results go into that report, and it comes out.
Okay. All right.
Steve, I was wondering, I was hoping a lot of people would show up tonight so we could get addresses and kind of do a pin map to see, we have 4 wells feeding a system, just to see if it was one area that was more prone to these types of things than others. The other thing I was thinking was, if we could do people's, you mentioned a handheld test, it really doesn't give you accurate results, but if we could take a sample from Keith's or her tap, send it out and get real tests done on it, and see, does Keith's water look different than Mary's, and see what's going on, because it might be, and the thing that popped into my head, if you guys are chlorinated, she turns the water on, I don't go down there and see when you turn the chlorinator on, but if she's closer to a well and the chlorinator gets in there, so there may be some things that we may be able to test the water to see if we have consistent quality throughout the well system, and that might give us some indications too.
Sure, absolutely.
And when we do our testing, if we go and collect a sample at a residence, it would be at the meter, right? And not at their faucet on the other end of the house? Or do we do both?
Usually we do the outside spigot.
Just outside?
But we could do a kitchen sink, it all depends, know. If water's going through a softener, a filter, that changes properties, then it's not our water anymore, it's the homeowner's water, essentially, so.
Well, it's not a bad idea to compare it, right? I mean, right now, we're in a place, we very infrequently have big discussions like this with these concerns, but so while everybody's here, because I invited everybody here, because I wanted to have this conversation, if it's, we need to go and do comparative tests for a while and see what's going on, if we need to pay for some outside lab tests that go deeper, it's okay, I think it's worth looking into with, Mary's house, Vicky's house, right, we're feeling like these things, and of course Keith, I don't have a problem doing that, to get down a little further.
People's health is obviously, the center of attention here. So we need to make sure that health-wise, that water that's going into your home, and anyone's home that's having some issues, you're taking care of. But I've always said that when we probably should test a little bit further than just the spigot, because what if it's the pipes that are running inside the homes that are causing some issues too?
Well, it would go through this house and spigot.
Just testing the outside spigots isn't enough. If someone is called in saying that they're having some issues, I think you need to, with permission, to check their inside water to see if from one point to another, is there an issue going on, and maybe it's replacing pipes. Because a lot of these older homes have not replaced their pipes, and that can really be an issue. And if the water is not the right color or whatever, the pipes usually do have some kind of, issues going on. So I think we just need to investigate a little bit more if we're going to do this. Let's really check those homes that are having the issues, not just on the outside, but let's go and, and do the inside. That way the residents know that from year to year, that's where the issue is.
One of the things, Joanne, I had a home, Central Lockport, and it had galvanized, and it had the lead inlet from the street as well. So when I tore all that out and went copper, you got the galvanized, and you look inside the pipe, and it's basically rust in about 1/4 of an inch. That's why when you flush the toilet over here, the person in the shower gets a change in temperature. So that would be something the homeowners can do by themselves. Look at the thing, if you got copper plumbing, it's probably okay. I know they got away from the lead solder to, a different material.
Some residents don't know that,
Right.
So they need to be guided,
Sure.
perhaps,
And
that's
again,
all
to
I'm
Steve's
saying.
point, if you got a concern, bring it here.
Please reach out. That's what we're here for. So, not here to fight with you or deny things. It's like if we find problems, we want to help. That's why we decided to serve in the first place. So,
Okay, then one more horrible, I'm over my minutes. If there's more people that are in the boat that I am, and we need to redo house lines, et cetera, if we could get someone within our city group that could negotiate on a larger bargaining table for a collective, God, that would be greatly appreciated.
a collective for what? I don't understand.
Purchase power. So if there's not just one house, but here's all these houses that pay independently for their own, but now you've got X amount of homes instead of just one. We might get about.
Yeah, if there's like pipe replacement that needs to be done inside.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't figure out what you wanted to buy.
Yeah.
Okay, so if
Yeah.
it's like all a bunch, okay, I understand now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are all the water cards. So I have 2 other cards that are unrelated, but thank you guys for coming out and sharing, and hopefully a better understanding of the big picture and what we've been doing. And we've been wanting this deep well water that's been working towards to be blended in, and we've been waiting for a long time. We started digging it in 2018, so you can see how long we've been waiting. So I think we do have hopes that will start increasing better water quality. So we'll continue working on it. And as you saw, we still have more mains to fix and 45 lead lines to go, and we'll keep being proactive when we can. But these other tests, we want to take care of for you guys.
Hey, can I ask Scott a quick question? The well 15 is the one that had the variable drive installed
Variable
in it.
speed drive, yeah, we just got that installed and started it up today.
So I know there's some fine tuning to it. Is the goal to have the bladder just kept full that's behind the police station? I mean, is that where that one pumps to?
It will, yeah, I mean, it pumps into the tower right next to it, it blends with well 10 and goes in there. And
Gotcha.
then the goal is to have when that booster station tower by police station fills at night, for that to turn on at the same time and push all the water towards the center of town, and
Okay.
then that station will disperse it more all over town, so.
Gotcha. And so that deep well is what you'd consider the lowest hardness or highest quality?
Yeah, the water
drinking
is,
water?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you. So, Mike and, 2 Michaels, Clausen and Bonomo, you guys, oh no, Mike, you're still here. You want to come up and? Yep, whoever wants to come up.
First of all, let me start out by saying thank you to Mayor Street and the entire city council for hearing us out and letting us come up and talk. And I'm really taken back by how the meeting has been operated. You're dealing with a real problem, real issues, and everybody's been very professional and polite. The citizens have all been very polite, professional, and it's something we're not used to, and I really appreciate seeing that. And it's very impressive. So, thank you for that. My name is Michael Clausen. I am a Homer Township trustee, and I have a couple of points here to talk about. I'm also a Homer Glen resident, and I'm one of the rare Homer Glen residents with a well, and I'm not giving it up. I am on well water. I love it. I have a something called an iron curtain that I bought from File Water Treatment. Came out and tested it, and it was an investment, I'll tell you that. And I love it. I'll never give up my well water. No way. Illinois American Water problems with Homer Glen are a real thing. I go to the village meetings and I just listened to a woman 2 meetings ago that has a family of 4, and her water bill 2 months in a row was $600. $600 for water. And I mean, I felt it in my chest. I couldn't believe it. So this is a real issue that I appreciate you guys facing it head on. And I know these long meetings are very difficult to be a part of for everybody, but it's impressive. And God bless you for that. So my wife and I own and operate a company. Well, my wife owns a company. I help operate it. I'm an employee. Right down the street here. So we are Lockport residents as well. And we're very proud of that as well. So we're familiar with the water as well, just to let you know. And we're one of the copper dots on the map that is updated to copper plumbing. So we're ready to go when you are. Anyway, I'm here for something that is connected to that, and it's political in nature. We have a very important election coming up on Tuesday. And why is it so important, and why is somebody from Homer Township here? Is because Homer Township represents 44,000 people, and 40% of those people are from Lockport. So we represent Lockport, Lamont, Homer Glen, Mokina, and a little bit of New Lenox. So there's a lot of people there, a lot of open area as well. The slate that's running against our slate, I'm on the Will County Freedom Caucus slate with Steve Balich and Vicki Bozen, and Mike Bonomo is here as well. Why is this important? The opposing slate is running on something called reset, and the reset means dissolving Homer Township. And what happens when you dissolve Homer Township? Will County will force you, Lockport, to take on a portion of that. What is a township? Some people may not know what a township is. It's a unit of measurement. It's 36 square miles. It's a big place, 36 square miles. So what if Will County makes you take on another 20 square miles? How are you going to do that? That's what's going to happen. For whatever reason, the lies are difficult, very unprofessional and difficult to keep up with. That's what will happen, because Will County will not take it like they say they will. They will force you to take it. They will force Homer to take it. They're going to force you to do that. Then what? Our slate is known as the Freedom Slate, right?
Mike, why don't you, instead of just getting comfortable with the politics, but it's okay to talk about if a township gets dissolved, these are the problems. If you stick to that, I appreciate it. You don't have to give me where you stand on it, just, or that would make me more comfortable.
Understood. If I get off the rails, just give me a wave and I'll move on to something else, and I'll go quickly. So, but it is a very serious topic, and it's very ties into what's going on here tonight. I'll just skip right over all the other stuff, right, and go to a positive topic. I have been tasked by the Homer Township Board to be a project manager of a building called the Homer Township Civic Center. There's been a lot of negativity pushed out on that as well, and I'm here to throw some positivity out there. It is for all of us. It is for Lockport. It is for Lockport residents. It's for all of us, and it's something that area has never had, and it's amazing. People have called it a pole barn. The reason I bring this up, please see me after the meeting. I have pictures and videos, and I can show you as the manager of the place. It is a modern structure with modern plumbing, and it's a real joy to be a part of it. I'm super proud of it. Phase 1 just completed today, and we'll be moving into Phase 2 when the ground thaws. We had a very good fall, so the contractor got a lot done in the fall, and now we're ahead of schedule. So what I really wanted to focus on, that it's a 10,000 square foot structure. It's a multi-use structure that anybody can use for just about anything, right? It's going to have a basketball court, pickleball courts in it, volleyball court, and it's a positive addition to the entire community, including Lockport. I know you guys have the pleasure of managing, I think, a couple buildings like that, or a couple areas anyway. And so you know what I'm talking about, how positive an addition that is to the community. And some of the negativity being thrown at it, that recently I heard that there was something called a vaulted toilet, speaking of plumbing. That's a forest preserve toilet with a hole in the ground inside a building. So I mean, it's just kind of, it's to your point, Mr. McDonald, about Facebook, it's a Wild West place. Please contact me, you get my email address, my phone number, contact these people up here, that's what they signed up for. Facebook doesn't do anything.
Well, Mike, why don't you do this? Because you're right, half of, Lockport lives in Homer Township, and I assume would have access to this structure. Why don't you, feel free to put out some bullet points and who can access it and what it takes, because it takes half of our residents have access to that, just send it to me, and I can post it on our city website and just say, hey, look, FYI,
Mr.
if
Mayor,
you're Lockport residents, this is available to you if you're in Homer Township.
That's my last point on here. That's the whole spiel was to ask you a question. If I'm making a video tomorrow, finishing phase one, and if I could forward you that video and you could post it and help us promote it to your citizens.
Making information available to folks, I think, is part of what we do. So you
Okay.
just give me the information. You don't have to give negatives or politics or anything. Just, hey, this is
It's
what we
all
got.
positive, very
This is
positive
This is what's
stuff.
available and who it's available for.
Very
That'd be
positive
good.
stuff. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michael. Right. Yep, what do you got, Mr. Bonomo? Same subject, it looks like.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and again, thank you guys for listening to the residents, and I know some of you, and for a long period of time, and you guys do care about the community, especially the mayor. I mean, what he's turned downtown Lockport into is a gem. I mean, I'm in Chicago all the time, and people are talking about Lockport, and that 20 years ago never happened. So, kudos to this council and the mayor. I mean, you guys work hard for what you do. And me and Mike Lawson and our group as the township trustees, we work hard as well for the community and do what we can to make things better for everybody. And with the town center, that's something I wanted to talk about as well. And why it was important to me, I run the senior task force, and we put together programs for the seniors. For me, I have to find venues to have bingo and other events in, and we run into scheduling conflicts. This is going to allow us to not have to worry about that. We're going to be in a building that's owned by the residents, so really it's, there's nothing to interfere with any activities. And as Mike mentioned, we represent 40% plus of Lockport. So our goal is to, and where we have it positioned is pretty much in the middle of Homer Glen and Lockport, New Lenox and Lamont and all that, but primarily it's going to be Lockport and Homer Glen residents utilizing it. And as it's being built, we are not in competition with anybody like the Lockport Park District or the Megaplex or anything like that. There's always overflow. Anytime you call a facility, you want to rent out a gym, what happens? There's a time schedule. So you have to look for a different place. Same with the library. We're talking about having homeschooling pods inside the Civic Center where you can teach children. We've had 3 events where we've had residents come in and ask what they want to have happen in this building. It's theirs, not ours. Or it's part of mine too, because I live in Lockport as well. So, but again, we're here, pretty much to promote it. We're bragging about it. It's really a beautiful structure. It's in an area, if anyone has heard of Tratina Farm, 95% of residents in Homer Glen, Lockport probably never heard of it. Now they will, now they do. It's an asset for us, and it's something that we're going to build on. And as anything like the property, the Chevron property, you buy it for future, things. That doesn't happen overnight. You have to get money, you have to get resources in order to have things done. That's what we're doing with the town center. We have phase 1 done, paid for, and as we build, of course, donations, grants, whatever. Maybe hope to pick Lance's brain with that. But, we're here to service the community of Lockport. And to get off subject on the water, I live in Creekside. I think for me, the water's fine. You deal with it, right? You get bottled water if you need. Now, people in the older parts of Lockport, they probably have a more difficult time, because my home is newer and all. But, again, people in Homer Glen, like Mike has said, they're going up to the podium with $400 or $500 bills. That's a big chunk of your paycheck going towards just water. And they say they even shut the water off while they're gone, and it's still $400 or $500, and that's insane. And I give you guys credit. You're taking on an issue that's going to be very difficult. And you're going to get, darts thrown at you in every which way. Nothing you do is going to be right until they see results. And, with everyone in this room, I'm sure you guys are going to get some results over time. It's not going to be overnight, but again, I'm in this town to stay, Lockport. I love it here, and again, it's, I want to thank you guys for making it what it is. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate it. All right, me friends, that's everything. We'll do a motion to adjourn here, but thank you for coming out, and again, feel free to utilize your alder folk and myself and staff. So, Nothing else, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, Joanne and Jonathan, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.